Have you ever heard that the human body emits light? It's not a metaphor, it's science. Every cell in your body glows, and that light tells us who you are, what you think, and even how you love. In this video, you'll discover the forgotten secret of the man of light, the hidden science behind the power of consciousness, cellular memory, and inner regeneration. Prepare yourself because what you hear could forever change the way you perceive yourself. There was a man whom history chose to erase from its memory. His name was Aurelion, and he spent half his life in laboratories, intent on measuring invisible particles, and the other half immersed in silence, contemplating the splendor that radiated from his closed hands in the darkness. His contemporaries declared him mad when he claimed that the human body does not live by mere chemistry, but by photons, and that DNA is not just a code, but an antenna capable of capturing and radiating light frequencies invisible to the eye, but not to the soul. He was accused of heresy within his own field of research. His studies were burned, his lectures cancelled, his laboratories sealed. Despite this, Aurelian did not give up. He retreated to a remote place, perhaps a forgotten library in the mountains, perhaps an underground temple, and there he wrote a treatise that intertwined quantum physics, archaic wisdom, and direct experience, a text that reminded man of his essence as a luminous creature imprisoned in flesh who has forgotten how to shine. Today, decades after his passing, contemporary science is beginning to confirm what he whispered in his solitude. Cells emit biophotons, emotions reorganize matter, thoughts rewrite DNA. But Aurelian needed no validation. He already knew that he who remembers his own light remembers his own eternity. The body doesn't forget, it simply waits for consciousness to remember its light. I, Aurelian, spent years chasing immortality between test tubes and microscopes, measuring telomeres and mitochondria as if time could be captured by a formula. One night, in the silence of the laboratory, something happened that science could not explain. Before me, a sample of aged, gray, and nearly dead cells began to emit a faint glow, and when I turned off the lights, I realized that the luminosity was coming from within the cells themselves. Then I realized I'd been looking in the wrong place. Youth lies not in chemistry, but in the luminous memory that each cell retains from the moment of its creation. The body is not a machine that wears out, but a system of light that forgets how to radiate its origin. Every cell is born from a photonic explosion, that spark documented by science when egg and sperm fuse, releasing a flash of light, the first in a sun that never goes out but only dims. Illness, aging, and pain are not defects, but rather oblivions of light. At every point where photonic coherence is fragmented, the cell loses the memory of its original perfection, of the divine design that sustains it. The body, therefore, does not ask to be healed, it asks to be remembered. If you feel this message needs to reach more people, leave a hype now. It's the easiest way to make it explode in the algorithm and spread this knowledge to those who need it. Decades later, biophysicist Fritz Albert Popp demonstrated that all living cells emit biophotons, tiny particles of light that coordinate biological processes. Healthy cells emit coherent, ordered light like a laser beam. Diseased cells emit chaotic, fragmented light. The difference between health and disease is not chemical, but luminous. Bruce Lipton would later reveal that the cell membrane acts like an antenna that reads not only chemical signals, but frequencies and intentions, while Joe Dispenza showed that emotion can rearrange the message sent to DNA, rewriting the very information of life. The body is therefore not broken, but awaiting the right frequency. When consciousness returns to vibrate in harmony, every cell rekindles, and matter, responding to the light, remembers its own perfection. From that night, I understood that the science of life does not belong to chemistry, but to the luminous memory that animates every being. Youth is an internal resonance, not an external composite. The body, a temple of conscious photons, awaits only the moment when the mind ceases to analyze it and begins to experience it again as an emanation of its original splendor. Every breath is a silent pact between heaven and blood. It was in the winter of 1987 in a Tibetan monastery at the foot of the Himalayas that I saw with my own eyes what science would take decades to confirm. Monks capable of raising their body temperature in the freezing snow simply through their breath. Scientists call that phenomenon tumo, the inner fire, but what appeared to be mysticism was, in truth, an act of communion between mind, light, and matter. I watched an old man sitting in the snow, almost naked, breathing deeply and deliberately. Within minutes, the ice beneath him began to melt, and his eyes radiated a light no reflection could have produced. When I asked him how this was possible, he replied simply, "We don't breathe air, we breathe light, waiting to become matter." That night in my monastic cell, I imitated his technique, breathing with total presence, and I felt heat within my cells, as if every mitochondrion were firing in unison. I understood then that breathing is not a chemical process but a photonic ritual. Shallow, mechanical, and unconscious breathing fragments the body's light and generates cellular disorder. Deep, conscious breathing, however, restores luminous coherence and restores inner harmony. Each mitochondrion becomes a living lantern. The HeartMath Institute would later demonstrate that simple rhythmic breathing induces cardiac coherence, synchronizing the brain, nervous system, and immune system. This coherence isn't merely electrical, it's photonic. The heart, when it vibrates in the order of love and gratitude, emits light and spreads it like a small inner sun. Science has observed that, in states of deep presence, the inflammation genes are switched off and the regeneration genes are activated within minutes. Conscious breathing thus becomes the language through which the body responds to the luminous mind. Breathing with intention isn't just about oxygenating yourself, it's about nourishing your body with photonic information from the invisible world. The air saturated with solar and electromagnetic biophotons is a bridge between cosmic light and the flesh. Each alveolus in the lungs is a window through which life enters in the form of frequency. Rhythmic breathing imparts order to living matter. Each inhalation absorbs photons, each exhalation releases shadows. When the act of breathing becomes a silent prayer, light returns to flow through the blood like an ancient language. Spiritual traditions have always known this. Prana, Ruah, Pneuma, Ki are all names for the same essence that vivifies the flesh. We don't breathe to survive. We live because we know how to breathe light. The human body is not a mechanism of air and oxygen, but an organism of pulsating photons that with every breath renews its pact with the cosmos. Conscious breathing is therefore the first act of healing and the last reminder of our luminous origin. DNA is not an inert code, but an antenna waiting for consciousness to remember which frequency to tune. My grandmother was the first to reveal this to me when, as a child, she made me gaze at the stars and told me that they had died to allow me to exist. Those simple words contained a cosmic truth. My atoms came from the heart of ancient suns. Years later, observing a DNA molecule under a microscope, I saw not just a spiral, but a bridge between heaven and earth. The double helix appeared to me like a stairway to infinity, a sacred geometry vibrating between matter and consciousness. Then I understood that our genome does more than transmit biological instructions. It receives, interprets, and radiates frequencies. Experiments by Russian biologist Pyotr Garyazev confirmed that DNA responds to light, sound, and even human speech. Its spirals expand or contract based on the vibration received, behaving like a fractal antenna capable of modulating waves and information. When humans live in fear, their DNA hardens. When they live in love, It opens like a flower welcoming the light. Bruce Lipton showed that genetically identical cells change behavior in different environments. Thought and emotion are the soil in which biology flourishes or withers. Our words, as Masaru Emoto demonstrated with water, shape the very matter in which DNA is immersed. Water, which constitutes a large part of the body, is a liquid crystal sensitive to emotional vibration. When we turn to ourselves with love, our DNA realigns to its original perfection. Gratitude and a positive outlook activate regenerative genes, awakening latent potential. The body thus becomes a receiver of conscious light. The word, a biological command. Faith, a quantum impulse that restructures matter. DNA is a fragment of a star that preserves the memory of its fire. Every time we speak with sincerity and compassion, our inner helix responds by vibrating in harmonious order. We inherit not destiny, but frequency. What we believe we are determines the music our biology plays. We are therefore stardust endowed with consciousness, a bridge between the visible and invisible universes. DNA does not belong solely to the human species. It belongs to the cosmos and is its secret language. When we remember our celestial origin, matter ceases to obey the gravity of fear and begins to resonate with the light of eternity. It was in a market in Istanbul, amid the voices of vendors and the scent of spices, that an old man handed me a glass of water, saying simply, "Drink slowly, the water listens to you." I smiled skeptically, but that invitation struck a chord with me more than the taste of the water itself. Back in the lab, I began investigating what academics called water memory, an object of ridicule and then fear. I discovered the experiments of Japanese artist Masaru Emoto, who photographed water crystals exposed to different words and sounds. Water blessed by love and gratitude formed perfect geometric shapes. Water insulted or cursed formed shattered and chaotic structures. The scientific community rejected his findings, but I read a profound principle in them. Water is not an inert substance, but rather a living matrix that records frequencies and consciousness. Since the human body is composed of over two-thirds water, every thought, word, or emotion alters the molecular geometry of our being. We are therefore the authors of our biology. The mind constantly rewrites the liquid structure that supports it. I experimented on myself by thanking water before drinking it. Within weeks, my health improved, inflammation reduced, and my skin seemed to radiate with light. Research by Gerald Pollack at Washington University later revealed that intracellular water is not simply liquid, but an ordered form called the exclusion zone, a nearly crystalline substance that stores energy and responds to sunlight like a living battery. Within it, photons travel like biological optical fibers, transmitting information at the speed of light. Thus I understood that water is the channel through which light becomes matter. It is the sacred bridge between spirit and flesh, the fluid memory of the cosmos. Ancient cultures knew this. Temples were built around springs. Purification rites were performed with flowing, never stagnant water. Blessing water is not superstition, but recognition of its intelligence. When a human being relates to water with presence and gratitude, the entire body realigns to its original harmony. The heart, as demonstrated by studies at the Heart Math Institute, can alter the molecular structure of surrounding water up to 2 meters away. Imagine the effect love has on the liters of water flowing through you. Every conscious sip becomes an act of reconciliation between consciousness and matter. Water, the silent guardian of our biological history, waits only for the mind to remember its own light. When you drink with attention and respect, your body responds. You don't absorb a liquid, but awaken an echo of eternity that has been dormant within your cells. It was an autumn afternoon in the Swiss mountains when, immersed in silence, I breathed and saw the light, not with my eyes, but with something deeper. Each inhalation brought with it golden particles that flowed through my body like incandescent rivers, while the exhalation released ancient shadows and burdens. From that vision, my study of breathing as an exchange of light was born. Dr. Fritz Albert Popp had already demonstrated that cells emit biophotons. I understood that they absorb them, and that breathing is the channel through which the organism nourishes itself with solar photons. I practiced photon breathing at dawn for 40 days. In a short time, my energy doubled and my skin became luminous. I later discovered, thanks to Joe Dispenza's research, that conscious breathing reorganizes the body's electromagnetic field, increasing the emission of coherent light by up to threefold. The sages of India had intuited this millennia ago, calling the life force that permeates the air and nourishes the soul prana. Breathing consciously, therefore, means nourishing one's luminous field. When the rhythm of your breathing harmonizes with your heartbeat, what's known as cardiac coherence is born, a state of profound balance in which your DNA relaxes and your cells produce more vital energy. A few minutes of rhythmic breathing, 5 seconds of inhalation, 5 seconds of exhalation, are enough to ignite your inner sun. I developed a ritual of 3 breaths of light, the first to draw the golden energy from above to the heart, the second to spread it to every cell, the third to expand it beyond the skin like a luminous aura. 90 seconds is enough to restore the body's vibrational order. Each time you perform it, your being realigns with the primordial frequency of creation. Breathing light is reborn in every moment. Every inhalation is an invitation to life. Every exhalation a liberation from the shadows of memory. The body, fueled by photons, remembers itself as a conscious flame that has burned forever, waiting only to rediscover its sacred rhythm. It was the night of January 3rd, 1994, in the intensive care unit of a Berlin hospital. I was no longer the scientist, but the patient. My heart, in the throes of severe arrhythmia, was beating like a mad instrument. In that solitude, I placed my hand on his chest and spoke to him. "Forgive me. I searched for the light outside, forgetting the one you guard." A few moments later, a profound calm invaded me. On the monitor, my heart rate began to regularize. I understood that the heart is not a pump but a hidden sun, a generator of an electromagnetic field 5,000 times more powerful than the brain's. It has its own nervous system and communicates more information to the brain than it receives. When the heart enters a state of coherence, its harmonic waves synchronize every physiological system. The brain produces alpha waves, immunity is strengthened, hormones are balanced. The heart, then, is not just a vital organ, but the spiritual center of man. Ancient civilizations knew this. The Egyptians called it the seat of the soul, the Taoists the palace of the spirit, the yogis the chakra of love. Disordered emotions create chaos in the electrical field and weaken the body. Gratitude and compassion, on the other hand, reorganize it, generating photonic coherence. This is why I created the solar heart activation, breathing as if the air were entering and leaving the chest, evoking a memory of sincere love, until visualizing the heart as a golden sphere radiating healing light. 5 minutes of this practice is enough to modify genetics in real time. Epigenetics has shown that genes respond to the heart's electromagnetic field more than any drug. The heart thinks, feels, and remembers. When you listen to it, it heals you. Place your hand on your chest and listen to that beat. It is the primordial drum of your existence, the sun that never stops rising within you. It was in the spring of 1996, in a Taoist monastery in the Wudang Mountains, that I met an elderly master with a serene face and penetrating gaze. He observed me in silence for days, then said, "Your light is dispersing. You're letting it escape from the wrong place." Only later did I understand that he was speaking of sexual energy, the most powerful creative force in human beings. In ancient cultures, this energy was not repressed or abused, but venerated. The master taught me to breathe, bringing my awareness to the base of my spine to sense the vital heat and guide it upward along the spine to the crown of my head. The Taoists call this process the microcosmic orbit, the Indian mystics the Kundalini. It is the transmutation of desire into light. The first few weeks were fruitless. Then one morning I felt an ascending shiver, a subtle fire rising like a slow flash of lightning. When it reached my head, I saw flashes behind my eyelids and felt my body vibrate in a new harmony. The master smiled. Now your light does not disperse, it rises, and in its ascent it heals, creates, transforms. I then understood that sexuality is not merely a biological impulse, but a sacred language of energy. The hormones produced by the sexual organs influence cellular regeneration and genetic activity. The body renews itself through a fire that, when directed upward, becomes a source of longevity and expanded consciousness. The discipline of this energy is a spiritual science, not abstinence, but transmutation. Sexual fire is therefore the original current of life, the breath that can dissolve or illuminate. When cultivated with respect and intention, it does not destroy, but divinizes the flesh. The creative act, human or cosmic, is always an act of light that reminds matter of its generative power. At a market in Provence one June morning, I held a freshly picked tomato in my hands and felt it pulsate. It wasn't imagination, it emanated life. I understood it in that moment. Not everything that nourishes the body nourishes the light. Foods are not equal in their photonic content, even when chemistry declares them similar. Biophysicist Fritz Albert Popp demonstrated that fresh, organic foods emit up to 100 times more biophotons than processed or preserved foods. Live, freshly harvested foods free of chemical contamination transmit coherent information to the body. Processed or irradiated foods communicate disorder, generating inflammation and decay. We don't feed on calories but on organized light. Following this principle, I eliminated processed foods and consumed only whole, simple foods close to their origin. In a few weeks, my body changed. My weight rebalanced, my skin became clearer, my mind sharper. The transformation was not only physical but energetic. I felt in tune with the rhythm of the sun and the earth. Dr. Gabriel Cousens would later confirm that a diet based on living foods can reverse chronic diseases and rejuvenate cells. Green vegetables, fresh fruit, sprouts, and algae are supreme carriers of photons, while processed foods are almost devoid of light. It's not dietary dogma that heals, but the luminous quality of the food and the intention with which it is consumed. Even the act of cooking is an act of energetic transmission. Anger and haste create disharmony, while gratitude and love elevate the food's vibration. Blessing food is not a superstitious ritual, but a conscious interaction with matter. Eating, in truth, means transforming the light of the cosmos into the light of one's own body. In a Prague cafe on a rainy evening, a woman confided in me her grief for her son, who was suffering from leukemia. I told her that every thought is a command sent to matter. If you imagine him dying, the body responds to death. If you see him healed, the body listens to life. That truth, though difficult to accept, is confirmed today by the physics of consciousness. Experiments by William Tiller and Dean Radin have shown that the mind can alter physical parameters remotely, even modifying the molecular structure of water. Our intention is an electromagnetic field, capable of rearranging reality. The difference between miracle and science is merely the language used to describe it. The woman followed my advice. Every day, 3 times, she visualized her healthy, smiling son. After 6 months, I received a letter. The child was in complete remission. I didn't attribute the credit to myself, but to the power of loving consciousness. Since coherent intention generates ordered photons, that communicate biological order. I myself experienced this power on a scar on my arm. For months I gazed at it with gratitude, imagining it healed. Little by little, the skin regenerated until the scar almost disappeared. It wasn't magic, but an interaction between mind and DNA. Cells obey images held with deep emotion and perseverance. For intention to be effective, it must possess three qualities: clarity, feeling, and perseverance. A vague thought does not move matter. An intense emotion guides it, but only repetition makes it permanent. Every thought sustained for more than 17 seconds becomes instruction for the body. The mind is therefore the laboratory of creation, and intention is its technology of light. In the winter of 2002 in Amsterdam, a sudden awakening made me perceive a violet light emanating from the center of my head. It was neither a dream nor a hallucination, but an inner vision. My pineal gland had awakened. In that moment, I saw geometries, mandalas, forms of pure energy, and I knew that there exists an I that is not of flesh. The pineal gland is, structurally, a true sensory organ. It contains photoreceptive cells, calcite crystals, and direct connections to the optic nerve. The ancients called it the third eye, the Egyptian eye of Horus, the center of divine vision. Modern science has reduced it to a melatonin producer, ignoring its transcendent function. Dr. Rick Stressman demonstrated that it secretes DMT, the molecule of mystical vision, active at birth, death, and during states of deep meditation. However, the pineal gland of modern humans is calcified by fluorides and artificial light. Only darkness, quiet, and purity can reactivate it, as in ancient cave retreat practices. I spent 7 days in complete darkness, and on the fifth day I saw clearly what no instrument could have revealed: the light of my body. My visions were clear, my intuition was clear, my perception amplified. Emerging from that luminous silence, the colors of the world appeared more vivid, as if all reality had regained its original transparency. To keep my pineal gland active, I eliminated fluoride, practiced concentrated meditation between my eyebrows, exposed myself to the dawn sun, and slept in complete darkness. Over time, my dreams became lucid, and my mind acquired unprecedented clarity. The pineal gland is the bridge between dimensions. It receives information from the quantum field and translates it into images, intuitions, and knowledge. Those who awaken it don't see more. They remember that they are light observing light. Every authentic healing is an act of memory. Cells don't need to be repaired, but to remember their original geometry, the form of light from which they came. When a human being falls ill, they don't lose health, they lose coherence. Illness is a symphony out of tune, a wave out of sync with the rhythm of the universe. I understood this after an accident that left me immobile for months. Every doctor told me I'd never walk again. Instead, I decided to talk to my body. Every day I visualized my legs bathed in golden light, as if billions of conscious particles were rebuilding my nerves. After 6 weeks, I began to wiggle my toes, and in 3 months I was walking. It wasn't a miracle, but the reactivation of a luminous memory. Modern epigenetic research has shown that DNA responds to the emotional and mental environment. When the mind generates fear, cells contract. When it generates trust, they open and begin to repair themselves. The energy we call love is not a vague feeling. It is photonic coherence that recomposes matter. For this reason, any therapy that ignores the luminous dimension of being remains incomplete. Medication can alleviate, but only consciousness heals. The medicine of the future will not simply correct symptoms, but will restore harmony in the vibrational field. The doctor will become a frequency tuner, and the patient a musician learning to listen to himself. Every healing is a reconciliation between light and shadow, between spirit and flesh. When the mind surrenders to the rhythm of the heart, the light flows again unimpeded, and the body remembers its own plan for perfection. Healing, then, is not a conquest, but a return, matter recognizing itself as light. There is no higher destiny than that of man who remembers his luminous nature. For centuries, we have believed ourselves to be thinking flesh, when in reality, we are light dreaming of being flesh. Every time a cell emits a biophoton, it announces to the cosmos that life continues, that creation is still in progress. In the silence of my last laboratory, I understood that true scientific research consists not in mastering matter, but in listening to it. Every particle, every fiber, every cell is a fragment of consciousness in dialogue with the infinite. The microscope and prayer, if conducted with purity of intent, reveal the same truth. Light is the essence of all that exists. The man of light is neither a myth nor a symbol. He is the natural form of the human being when he ceases to live in fear. He feeds on harmony, breathes photons, communicates with the universe without intermediaries. In him, body and consciousness are not separate. Matter responds instantly to thought, and time loses its power. When this state is reached, death is no longer an end, but a transition. The energy that composes us does not disappear. It transforms into a more subtle frequency. Quantum physics confirms this, and mystical traditions have already stated it. Nothing is lost. Everything is transfigured into light. So I now understand the message that has accompanied me throughout my life. Science must not replace spirituality, but recognize its continuity. The universe is an immense luminous organism, and we are its conscious cells. When one of them remembers its origin, it illuminates the whole. I, Aurelion, was not seeking immortality, but a return to the source. I found it in the light that vibrates within every breath, every glance, every loving thought. The body does not forget, it simply waits to be heard. Ultimately, it all boils down to one truth. We are not made of matter, but of light that remembers through us. Every thought, every breath, every gesture can be an act of rebirth if you choose to live it with awareness. If you too feel that spark within you longing to be rekindled, write the word light in the comments. It will be our signal of recognition, the signature of those who have chosen to awaken. Leave a hype to support the message. Subscribe to the channel if you want to continue this journey into inner science, and share the video with those who have forgotten to shine. May your light be clear, intense, and infinite. See you soon.